Hello, and welcome to our Learn and Earn program, Carnival's Travel Advisor Training Program. As an advisor selling Carnival to your clients, your role is a critical one to the Carnival brand. Thank you in advance for your commitment to learning about Carnival Cruise Line and the fun, value, and memorable experiences that Carnival brings to millions of guests worldwide. In today's module, we'll be covering Carnival Vacation Protection, and our topics will include what is Carnival Vacation Protection, why sell Carnival Vacation Protection, the different coverages under the plan. We'll also talk about how to enroll in Carnival Vacation Protection and then how to use it if needed. And finally, we'll wrap up with tips for selling vacation protection. So let's get started. So what is Carnival Vacation Protection? Carnival Vacation Protection, or CVP as we call it internally, is a package of both insurance and non-insurance benefits. We do not call it travel insurance. We do call it vacation protection. So please be sure that's the term that you're always using. But it's made up of three different programs. The first is the cancellation fee waiver program. This is a non-insurance benefit that's provided by Carnival Cruise Line and administered by Aon Affinity. The next section is travel insurance benefits. This is underwritten by Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliated companies and administered by Aon Affinity. And then finally, you have the Worldwide Emergency Assistance, again, another non-insurance service provided by On Call International. So the collection of these three programs makes up the Carnival Vacation Protection Program. So if you have clients that have specific state-specific questions about the vacation protection and what is covered, they can always visit www.affinitytravelcert.com. Now, why sell vacation protection? The bigger question is why not sell vacation protection? Because it really brings peace of mind to both you and your clients, both before the cruise and during their vacation. Carnival Vacation Protection is commissionable at 10%, and it does include a cancel for any reason feature. So if it is a covered reason, guests would be eligible for 100% cash reimbursement of any penalties. And if they just decide to cancel for any reason, they're having a bad hair day, they don't like who they're traveling with, they would be eligible for a 75% future cruise credit on whatever the cancellation penalties are. Now, vacation protection also includes reimbursement for necessary shipboard medical expenses and medical expenses incurred in another country. There's also coverage for more routine things that happen, like trip delays or lost baggage, and then a 24-hour worldwide assistance line to help with emergencies like lost passports or prescriptions or even emergency medical evacuation. Now let's talk through the different programs that are under the Carnival Vacation Protection. So the first one is the Carnival Cancellation Fee Waiver Program. Again, this is a benefit provided by Carnival and administered by Aon Affinity, and it would include trip cancellation, which also includes any air or land that are booked through Carnival, that if it's a covered reason, they would receive a cash refund up to the total cruise vacation cost. For trip interruption, again, including any air or land booked through Carnival. If it's a covered reason, again, they would receive a cash refund up to the total cruise vacation cost. And then if it's not a covered reason, the cancel for any reason, they would get a 75% future cruise credit of any cancellation penalties imposed. Now, the next portion, the Carnival Travel Insurance Program, this is underwritten by Nationwide Insurance Company and again, administered by Aon Affinity. This would also include trip cancellation and trip interruption for any independently booked air, and that would be up to the total original airfare cost. Any type of trip delay, they would be eligible for up to $500 per guest reimbursement. Accident, medical, or sickness medical, up to $10,000 each per guest. This is a big one, emergency evacuation or repatriation, because nobody ever expects to have an emergency on the ship, but if you do, they will be covered up to $30,000 per guest. And then for any lost bags or baggage delay, up to $1,500 or $500 per guest. And then finally, the Carefree Worldwide Emergency Assistance. Again, this is a 24/7 hotline provided by On Call International. It includes the Carefree Travel Assistance. So while you are traveling, if you have any delays or interruptions, medical assistance if there are any medical expenses or emergencies in the ports of call, and then the emergency services for things, again, like lost passports or prescriptions or emergency medical evacuation. Let's talk through the trip cancellation and trip interruption. So this would be if they had to cancel in advance or en route to their cruise. So some of the eligible reasons that would be covered. On the non-medical side, job loss is covered. If they have jury duty, that would also be covered. If they're involved in an accident on their way to the cruise terminal, that would be covered as well, or on their way to the airport. If there's a severe weather warning or watch, and that's either en route or in their departure point, that would be covered. That does have to be issued by NOAA. If they had a natural disaster that made their home inhabitable, that would also be covered. Now, the medical side is going to cover illness, injury, and death. So any of the covered reasons would receive a cash refund up to the total cost of the prepaid cruise vacation, including the air purchase through Carnival. As previously mentioned, if they had independently booked air and they had that unused ticket, they would also get the refund of the original airfare cost, and it would also cover the single supplement charge. Now, as we're talking through medical, let's talk about whose health issues qualify for the cancellation or interruption. Obviously, the insured guest. If the traveling companion had a health issue, then the other guests would be able to cancel as well. And then if any of the immediate family members of both the insured guest or the traveling companion have illness, injury, or death, they would also qualify for the trip cancellation or interruption. Now, immediate family members are considered either a spouse or domestic partner, parents, step-parents, and in-laws, children, stepchildren, and foster children, grandparents and grandchildren, siblings and step-siblings, as well as aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, and cousins. So that's who would qualify if any of these immediate family members, again, had illness, injury, or death. Let's talk about pre-existing conditions, because there is a pre-existing condition exclusion. So a pre-existing medical condition is an illness, disease, or other condition that first presents as worse during the 60-day period before vacation protection is purchased for either the guest, the traveling companion, or the immediate family member who is scheduled to travel with the guest. So the condition they can have a condition, but it must be stable and controlled during the 60-day period prior to them purchasing Carnival Vacation Protection. Now, know that the pre-existing condition exclusion does not apply for any type of medical evacuations from the ship or repatriations. The 60 days prior to purchasing would only apply to the travelers, not to family members back home. So if a family member's condition worsened or they passed away, they wouldn't have that exclusion. And then some of the situations that would exclude coverage would be in the 60 days prior to purchasing vacation protection, if they received a recommendation for a diagnostic test, an examination, or medical treatment, or something that prompts a change in their medication. So please don't try to speculate. If there are ever any pre-existing condition questions, please reach out and talk to Aon Affinity, because we want you to have the knowledge about selling vacation protection, but we also don't want you to be vacation protection agents. In addition to the pre-existing condition exclusion, let's talk about a few other exclusions. This would be an exclusion where they would not get a cash refund. It would not be a covered reason. As mentioned, if it's a pre-existing condition, which would be a condition that presents, worsens, becomes acute, or has symptoms causing the person to seek either diagnosis, care, or treatment, or prompts a change in medication during the 60 days prior to purchasing, then it would not be covered. If it's a condition to drug or alcohol abuse, then it would not be covered. If it's a business obligation or a school obligation that's preventing you from traveling, that would not be included, that would not be covered. Any type of deployment for the armed services, that would not be covered, although we do have a process in place if our members of the armed services are called to duty. And then certainly if anyone commits an unlawful act and is imprisoned and not able to go, that's not included. So we've talked about trip cancellation and delay for covered reasons. Let's talk about non-covered reasons that would qualify for the cancel for any reason. So cancel for any reason, let's a guest cancel really for any reason. If they can't find the right dress, if they're not feeling particularly cruisy, maybe they're not getting along with their traveling companion, for any reason. So they do have to purchase the vacation protection by final payment to have the cancel for any reason clause. If they purchase it within final payment, they do not have the option to cancel for any reason. So cancel for any reason does award them 75% future cruise credit of any cancellation fees imposed by Carnival. And this would include cruise, airs, transfers, anything that has a penalty imposed. It does not apply to independent airfare though. And please know that no-shows or anyone denied boarding are not eligible for cancel for any reason future cruise credits either. So if you know someone has to cancel them as soon as possible rather than letting them be a no-show. So you're on your way to your cruise and you're delayed. Let's talk about some of the eligible reasons that would be covered for a trip delay. That could be adverse weather that's in your way. If there is some type of air carrier delay, if there's an unannounced strike, if there's a documented travel accident en route to your departure that you're not involved in or that your client is not involved with, it would be covered. If there are lost or stolen passports or travel documents, if there's some sort of quarantine reason, if there is civil disorder, let's hope not, but those would all qualify for trip delay. Now, a couple of the benefits, if your trip is delayed or you're delayed in getting to your cruise, then one of the new benefits is a one-way economy ticket to catch up to where your ship is or to fly back home. Also receive reimbursement for any unused prepaid land cruise arrangements. You can get reimbursement for meals and accommodations and for telephone calls, all up to $500 per guest. Baggage protection, unfortunately, it happens. So eligible reasons for baggage protection coverage would be loss, theft, or damage of baggage during your trip. And it could be a delay from one of the common air carriers for 24 hours or more during your covered trip. Please note that the reimbursement for lost, stolen, or damaged baggage and personal effects is up to $1,500 per guest. And then if it's delayed, again, for 24 hours or more, the reimbursement for the purchase of necessary items is up to $500 per guest. Please keep in mind that the baggage coverage is secondary. The guest must first be party responsible. That would be either the airline, the cruise line, and the hotel, and with their homeowners or renters insurance policy. So this would be a secondary coverage for their baggage protection. Accidents and medical protection. So what's covered? So it would be if you are on the ship or a foreign country, physicians, laboratories, and hospitalizations, any dental, and then any eligible physician-ordered medical services within 1 year. So the benefits are the cost of the medical services occurred during the covered trip will be covered up to $10,000 per guest. So the guests must pay while they're on vacation and then file for reimbursement. So reimbursement is given after the services are rendered, after they return home. And then again, medical protection is secondary to the guest's personal medical insurance. So guests must first file with their primary insurer and then file a claim with Aon Affinity. Emergency medical evacuation and repatriation. I think this is a big one and a very compelling reason to purchase vacation protection. So it does cover any type of physician-ordered emergency medical transportation. That's if our shipboard doctor decides that the guest is not stable enough and they have to be airlifted off of the ship or taken by ambulance off the ship. And this also covers if, sadly, if a guest passes away, it does cover the preparation and transportation of a guest's remains. So the emergency medical evacuation and repatriation remains up to $30,000 each per guest. and this is prepaid and coordinated by On-Call International. So this is not like medical or the baggage where they have to pay and then file. This would be coordinated and prepaid by On-Call International. The 24/7 worldwide assistance services, again, provided by On-Call International. We talked a little bit about the Carefree Travel Assistance. So this is if you have a delay with your travel arrangements, if you have lost luggage or travel documents, if there is a weather advisory and preventing you from getting to your port of call. They can advise on passport requirements. They can also help with currency exchange and give you guidance on where you can exchange. And they can also update you on health and safety advisory. So this is prior to your cruise. Now, while you're on your cruise, the medical assistance would be medical case management. So there will be a consultation and monitoring. They would also help refer to local medical and dental service providers. They would keep you up to date or can answer any questions on any medical advisories, and could also help with the replacement of any prescription drugs or eyeglasses or other type of medical devices. Now, the emergency assistance would be the assistance with any type of emergency medical payments, help with cash transfers if you needed legal referrals. Also, if somebody in emergency as well. Let's talk about who qualifies for CVP. So CVP can only be offered for U.S. travel agencies paying in U.S. dollars for guests that are eligible. Now, the program applies for guests who live in the United States, in Canada, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and American Samoa. Please note that there are some exclusions that apply. So residents of various states or provinces in Canada and Puerto Rico may not qualify to purchase Carnival Vacation Protection. For a full list of those exclusions, please visit goccl.com. Now, to qualify, as long as they're living in one of those states or that does qualify, a guest must be a citizen or permanent resident of the U.S. or Canada, the U.S. 6 months of the year or longer, with a valid U.S. or Canadian address. Who doesn't qualify for CVP? Well, first of all, flamingos, people who refuse to cruise. Our international guests are not eligible for Carnival Vacation Protection, and our Australia sailings do not qualify. Carnival strongly recommends that guests purchase the appropriate international travel insurance if they are sailing out of Australia. And again, just a reminder that Carnival Vacation Protection is not available to residents of various states or provinces or Puerto Rico. And again, a full list can be found on goccl.com.
Now, how do you enroll in Carnival Vacation Protection? When can Vacation Protection be added to a booking? So Vacation Protection can be added to a booking and will remain on a booking up until the final payment date without payment. Now, once they're within the penalty period, the system will automatically drop the Carnival Vacation Protection if there's not enough funds. Now, if your client has not made final payment, Carnival Vacation Protection can be added at any time. You have to keep in mind, to qualify for the cancel for any reason, it has to be added by final payment, added and paid by final payment. But if you are inside final payment, Carnival Vacation Protection can be added up to 14 days prior to the sailings. Now, for new bookings that are made within final payment, the client can add Carnival Vacation Protection up to the day of departure if they booked within those 14 days prior to the cruise. Now, I mentioned that you can add Carnival Vacation Protection and it will stay on the booking all the way up until final payment without being paid. Now, once you are paid for it, the coverage has been activated and Carnival Vacation Protection cannot be removed from that booking because they get the protection if they have to cancel from the day that it is paid. Now, do keep in mind that if you have guests who do purchase the Carnival Vacation Protection, they do have a 10-day right to examine the coverage and cancel the coverage and be refunded if they feel it's not for them. If you do run into these scenarios, then please contact our service desk and they'll help you remove the Carnival Vacation Protection. So we've talked through what the Carnival Vacation Protection entails and how to add it to a booking. Let's talk about how you would actually file a claim if you have to use it. So where to report cancellations and interruptions. First off, if you have clients that need to cancel for a covered reason, I would cancel the reservation as soon as possible so you don't incur any additional penalties. The program administrator immediately, that's Aon Affinity, to advise of the situation, and so you don't get any other non-reimbursable expenses because of a late notification. Now, the program administrator, again, Aon Affinity, will send a form that must be completed by the guest and the treating doctor, if applicable. And then if it is a non-medical reason, instructions will be provided on what other information may be needed for a cancellation or interruption. So the claim process here, so most expenses, including medical expenses, are reimbursed upon return home. It would be less any amount due from other sources. So we talked about baggage and medical. So if the airline covered a portion and the homeowner's insurance covered a portion, that amount would not be reimbursed through the vacation protection. It would be subtracted from the amount coming to the guest. We do encourage guests to keep all their receipts because they will be needed in the claims process. And then, as mentioned prior, the evacuation and the repatriation expenses are all prepaid through On Call International. So you would initiate a claim by going to www.travelclaim.com. Claim forms are then going to be emailed or mailed within 2 business days, claim form, and then 90% of the claims are paid. And again, those for non-eligible reasons, as long as they purchase it outside of final payment, would qualify for cancel for any reason. So let's go through some of the tips for selling Carnival Vacation Protection. When you are quoting a client on a cruise booking, always include cruise vacation protection in the quote. It's there, then they can deny it, and I would always try to get that in writing. Now, when you're talking about vacation protection, just use factual, non-embellished reasons. Don't try to use scare tactics to encourage the purchase. It really is a peace of mind for both you and for the client. Go through and explain some of the benefits both before the cruise and during the cruise. And if they decide that they don't want it, please, because nobody ever expects anything to happen. And if they have denied coverage and something does happen, you want to be able to have backup showing why they won't get a reimbursement. Here's what we don't want. We want you to be familiar with our Carnival Vacation Protection, but we don't want to turn you into insurance agents. So please avoid evaluating any type of coverage from existing medical or homeowners coverage. Know in general what the plan includes, but try not to get too technical. For any type of really technical questions or any questions on pre-existing conditions, please refer questions over to Aon Affinity because they really are the expert. And then finally, the Travel Insurance Licensing Registration, which is the U.S. Travel Insurance Association registry. This is a program created for travel advisors for licensing with travel insurance. It is not a program created or sponsored by Carnival Cruise Line. It is a program sponsored by the U.S. Travel Insurance Association. And if any travel advisors are interested in being registered with them, they should contact them directly. There is no cost to participate. And just like that, you're on your way to becoming an expert in fun. Thank you so much for watching our video on Carnival's Vacation Protection. Remember to complete the short quiz to complete this training. And for more information on this topic and more, please visit GoCCL.com. Thank you so much, Carnival Cruise Line.